COVID-19 brought some big changes to the Tech campus last fall, with the biggest difference coming in the form of virtual interaction. Coming up, MCTV's Patricia Williams shows us how one campus group took lessons learned last year to help students in person during the spring.
Students looking for ways to get involved on campus had the chance to stop by the sub over the weekend and learn about the university's Greek community. We'll tell you more about the spring edition of the MPC Showcase next.
And the biggest night in sports turned out a bit differently than many experts predicted, but history was still made. We have the details on Super Bowl 55's quarterback showdown and which player took home 2 trophies to permanently cement their place in football history.
This is the MCTV Weekday Update.
Welcome to the Monday edition of the MCTV Weekday Update. I'm Patricia Perry.
And I'm Anakin Rayos.
The COVID-19 situation in Lubbock County continues to improve after both city and Texas Tech officials reported their lowest case count in months. Yesterday afternoon, Lubbock health officials announced only 17 new cases of the coronavirus in their daily report. That's the lowest one-day total for new active infections since August 16th of last year. The number of total active cases also dropped to 1,197, with 111 recoveries also mentioned in yesterday's report. Another number that is dropping is the county's hospitalization rate. As of Sunday afternoon, the rate had fallen to 7.57%, making the 13th day Lubbock County has been below the 15% threshold set by the state. Here on campus, university officials reported just 5 new cases of COVID-19 in the most recent report from Friday. That report also included 5 recoveries and a total active number of 60 faculty, staff, and students currently battling the coronavirus. The university also saw an overall drop in the number of cases last week. Texas Tech announced only 27 total new active infections between Saturday, January 30th and Friday, February 5th, compared to 50 positive tests the week before. Last week now marked the lowest number of new cases reported in a 7-day period, while classes have been in session during the fall 2020 and spring 2021 semesters.
COVID-19 has had a huge impact on many parts of the university since the pandemic started in the spring. One area that had to adapt to keep students safe had been academic services, which have largely been moved to virtual options since in-person instruction resumed in August. But after the winter break, one program decided to make some changes as they headed into a new year. MCTV's Patricia Williams has more.
Thanks, guys. Since the fall, a lot of changes have been made to Texas Tech due to the pandemic, but the Learning Center has reverted one small change to increase student success. The Learning Center is located in room 164 in Drain Hall. With the center now being open for in-person assistance, they have taken certain precautions like wearing masks and changing seating arrangements. Patrick Bond, the director of SOAR, said they strive to fill in the gaps and provide outlets for students to become successful within their courses.
Being a student resource that still offers some sort of in-person learning, especially when it comes to tutoring, we've noticed that a lot of these students who come and use us prefer the in-person. Now obviously we're taking all the precautions as necessary with masks and cleaning and everything else, but students seem to crave that interaction that maybe now that their courses, some courses are all online, that they don't have even with their professor. So they can come here and work with a peer, and so it's almost like asking your roommate or asking a best friend, hey, can you help me on this homework, or can you help reinforce some, content from the class.
Bryce Conley, a peer tutor at the Learning Center, said she tries to make her sessions casual and less intimidating as possible.
I think as a student, it's hard to find those resources, like just someone to help, and I'm glad I can act as that resource to some students.
Vaughn said peers tutoring other peers can be a lot less intimidating and stressful compared to a professor tutoring a student.
And so helps instructors by giving the students another outlet that maybe if they don't have time to ask questions in class or they don't feel comfortable, they can come here and reinforce what goes on in the class and the content, or they can just ask questions to a peer. And peer-to-peer learning is something that's proven to be extremely helpful.
With the Learning Center now offering in-person tutoring and online options, there are now multiple ways for students to get the help that they need. For MCTV, I'm Kurtzia Williams.
Texas Tech's Tutoring Center isn't the only group who decided to bring back an in-person component for the spring. Over the weekend, a group of student organizations utilized COVID-19 safety protocols to host an annual event that gives students a chance to get plugged in and make some new friends. The Multicultural Greek Council held the spring edition of their MGC Showcase on Saturday in the Sub. From 6 to 8 p.m., students were invited to stop by the Sub Ballroom, Matador Room, and Red Raider Rooms to meet up with representatives from various fraternities and sororities. Each group had an information table, and students had the chance to stop by and learn about what each Greek organization had to offer.
Because of COVID, we had to make restrictions, so there's not going to be a strolling or step show like we usually do, but it's basically an opportunity for the organizations to basically tell people, what they're about when they're recruiting. It's basically our prime event for recruitment. I think it's important because it shows that Texas Tech has organizations here that are diversity, like they are inclusive to all students. We are a very minority here, especially when it comes to Greek life, and so I think it's important to be able to showcase and uplift these organizations that do so much for the community, not just on Texas Tech campus, but in the Lubbock community as well.
Saturday's MGC Showcase was the first in-person event the group has hosted since in-person classes started back in the fall. Last semester's showcase was held virtually using Zoom. This weekend's event required all participants to wear a mask, and social distancing and other COVID-19 precautions were taken to keep everyone safe. For more information on the Multicultural Greek Council and to keep up with other events they host during the year, visit their Instagram page at instagram.com/texastech_MGC.
Lecture series are a common occurrence in the university world, and they were also some of the first events that were also moved online after the coronavirus forced the campus to close last year. But one university department has continued to bring in world-renowned speakers to Tech while following COVID-19 restrictions. Is Bitcoin a bubble? Was a topic last Wednesday as the Free Market Institute continued its public speaker series in the International Cultural Center's auditorium. Dr. William J. Luther, an assistant professor of economics at Florida Atlantic University, was the special guest speaker for the event. He addressed the huge fluctuations in price of Bitcoin over the last year and how long that value could last.
It's very common whenever the price of Bitcoin shoots up or drops that people just naively think that it's a bubble. And so I hope that they are thinking a bit more now about how the fundamental value of Bitcoin might be changing as well. Sometimes things happen that make Bitcoin more useful as a medium of exchange, and sometimes things happen that make us think that perhaps we won't be using Bitcoin as much as we thought in the future.
Last week's public speaker series was one of 4 in-person events the Free Market Institute has hosted since August. The group plans to continue to host events throughout the spring with their next scheduled event on March 23rd. The property species, mine, yours, and the human mind, is the next featured topic in the FMI Public Speaker Series. The event will feature special guest Bart Wilson, an economics professor from Chapman University. The event is scheduled for Tuesday, March 23rd at 6 p.m. in the ICC auditorium, and it is free and open to the public. For more information on the Free Market Institute and other upcoming events, visit fmi.ttu.edu.
It was a beautiful weekend here on the South Plains with spring-like conditions in the area both Saturday and Sunday. In fact, highs reached over 70 degrees on Sunday, but will those warmer conditions last this week? Let's take a look at the MCTV forecast. The MCTV Tower Cam is showing sunny skies this afternoon. Conditions have been mild today, with temperatures climbing into the mid-60s and winds staying light. We should see a continuation of that spring-like weather as we head into tomorrow with another day of 60-degree highs and a slight breeze. But starting Tuesday night, the South Plains will begin to experience a drop in temperatures that will continue into the weekend. On Wednesday, highs will be slightly cooler with temperatures topping out in the upper 50s. But Wednesday night will be noticeably colder as lows will drop into the 20s. By Thursday, the cooling trend will drop the high temperature into the low 40s, and lows that night will be down into the teens for the first time in weeks. Looking ahead, the drop in temperatures will continue into this weekend with the possibility of highs below freezing on Saturday and Sunday. The Texas Tech men's and women's basketball teams both hit the road this weekend, but each had different results against conference opponents on Saturday. The action started at 2 p.m. on Saturday afternoon as the Lady Raiders took on Iowa State in the Hilton Coliseum. The Cyclones hit the hardwood ready to play, outscoring Tech 24-13 in the first quarter. Tech kept things closer heading into the halftime, but after the break, Iowa State came out of the locker room and extended their lead to 25 points. The Lady Raiders outscored the Cyclones in the fourth quarter, but it wasn't nearly enough as Iowa State secured the win, 92-73. Even in the loss, senior Vivian Gray still had a huge night, scoring 26 points along with 6 rebounds and 4 assists. Senior guard Lexi Gordon also made the most of the tough matchup, putting up 23 points, 5 rebounds, and 2 assists. The Lady Raiders return home for their next conference matchup on Wednesday against the number 7 ranked Baylor Lady Bears. Baylor is currently in first place in the Big 12 with a 9-1 record, and Tech lost to the Lady Bears by more than 40 points back in mid-December. The Lady Raiders are hoping for redemption and an upset as they head into the last 6 games of the season. Wednesday's tip-off is set for 6 p.m. at the USA with TV coverage on Big 12 Now on ESPN+.
The Red Raider basketball team fared a lot better in their weekend matchup as they easily defeated a struggling Kansas State team. Tech scored early in Saturday's game and maintained the lead through most of the first half. The Wildcats tied things up several times, even into the first few minutes of the second half, but with 16 minutes remaining in the game, the Red Raiders went on a 12-point run and never looked back, taking home the win 73-62. Mac McClung, Kevin McCullough, and Kyler Edwards all scored in digits in the game, with McClung leading the team with 23 points. Marcus Santos Silva also contributed to the win with a team-high 5 assists along with 6 rebounds and 6 points. Next up, the Red Raiders will also be back on the home court with a top 25 opponent as number 14 West Virginia comes to town. The Mountaineers are coming off of back-to-back wins last week, including a victory over number 23 ranked Kansas on Saturday. Tech lost at West Virginia by only 1 point 2 weeks ago, and the Red Raiders are looking for a different outcome here in Lubbock. Tech versus WVU is scheduled for tomorrow evening at 8 p.m. And if you aren't able to be there in person, you can catch all the action on ESPN.
Last night, the National Football League took center stage as the Kansas City Chiefs took on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Super Bowl 55. The biggest night in sports was also supposed to feature an epic showdown between 2 of the best quarterbacks in the league. But at the end of the night, one player set himself apart by notching a unique place in sports history. After 2 weeks of hype, the showdown between Bucs quarterback Tom Brady and Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes ended up being a one-sided affair. Brady threw for 201 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no interceptions to give the Bucs a 31-9 victory. Mahomes put up 270 yards but never found the end zone. The former Red Raider also had 2 interceptions, was sacked 3 times, and only completed 26 of his 49 passing attempts. Sunday's loss was also the first time Mahomes did not complete a touchdown pass since 2019, and the only game in his time as starter that the Chiefs did not score above 10 points. As for Brady, he took home his 5th MVP trophy in his 7th Super Bowl win. Brady is the winningest starting quarterback in Super Bowl history, and he's the only player to ever win the MVP trophy 5 times. Along with the historic night for Brady and the Buccaneers, Super Bowl 55 will also be remembered for one of the lowest numbers of fans in attendance due to COVID-19 restrictions. Only 25,000 fans had the chance to see the game in person, with 7,500 of the tickets given free to first responders. Last night's Super Bowl also featured the game's first ever female referee, and the first time a team had 2 female coaches on their sideline.
So Patricia, did you watch last night's Super Bowl?
I did, and let me tell you, it was a disappointing game. What about you, Anakin?
That is true, but the highlight for me was the halftime show with The Weeknd. Boy, oh boy, that man can sing. Anyways, that's all for today's edition of the MCTV Weekday Update.
Thanks so much for joining us, and be sure to check ttuhub.net every day for more news. We'll see you on Thursday.